I still feel what these people are doing, and if you even saw in the setting that they're doing it in, I mean, in some cases, literally sitting on the ground in the dirt, doing, this beauty, you would just, the public, the visitors would be in awe. And I want maybe visitors to come and think, I want to go to Oaxaca. I want to see and meet some of these people. And that would be thrilling.
Hola comunidad, welcome to the Museo podcast on air. I'm Cristina Del Hoyo, your host and communications manager here at Museo Las Américas. In this episode, we have the pleasure to have with us our executive director, Claudia Moran, that will be talking to us about Colorado Gives Day, and then we'll interview Linda Hanna to learn everything about our current exhibition. Rosas y Revelaciones. In English, Roses and Revelations. Hola, Claudia. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming to our podcast. Our podcast, the Museo podcast on air, is your first time, right?
Yes.
Yes. We're so happy. We're so glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first got connected to Museo de las Américas.
I got connected to Museo a long time ago in 2005. And I was a volunteer of Museo de las Américas. And this is a very nice story because my friends, Jim and Alfredo, now they live in Mexico, but back in the day, they were very strong supporters of Museo. And they were very close friends of the executive director, back in the day, Patty Ortiz. And one of these nights, I was invited to a very beautiful dinner where I also had the opportunity to meet other people from the Boulder Contemporary Art Museum. And soon after, throughout the night, talking to Patty, she invited me to come to Museo. I told her that I was an archaeologist and I was writing my thesis, and she told me about the Museo's collections. I didn't know that Museo had an archaeological collection, so that was a great opportunity for me to connect with Denver, to connect with Museo. And I decided to come to Museo. So I don't remember how many hours I spent at Museo, but I went to collections. I was checking the archaeological pieces from Mexico, but also from other Latin American countries. They are beautiful. And then after, I had the opportunity to meet the team at Museo and talk to them. And right after that conversation, I was invited to have another conversation with Patty and to join Museo's team.
Oh, that's a great story. Well, we're so glad that, you made it to Museo. And, today we are going to be talking about Colorado Gives Day. I think a lot of people in the audience might not be familiar with what it is. And I know for us, as a nonprofit, is a very, crucial moment in the year. So could you, share with the audience a little bit about what Colorado Gives Day is all about?
It is a day where we all can support Museo at any level. There is no requirements because we do understand that donors may have some capacity and sponsors, patrons have a different capacity, but by joining Colorado Gives Day is an opportunity to support the nonprofit organizations in the state of Colorado. It is a great way to also connect with those organizations that you may be wondering about. What are they doing? What are the programs? What are the activities? But also, like, for many organizations, this is an opportunity for us to receive the funding that will sponsor, that will engage with the activities planned for the organization.
That's wonderful, Claudia. So for the people who are ready and eager to donate today at coloradogives.org, where are these funds going towards? Is it going towards our upcoming exhibitions, upcoming programming?
For pretty much any of the activities that we offer here at Museo, like Los Jóvenes, Summer Camp, educational workshops, lectures, and art of culturas, hands-on activities. So there are so many opportunities to provide funds for an institution like Museo, and those funds are going to be used in any of these activities that we are currently offering here.
That's awesome. So basically, anyone donating can feel, very proud because you are contributing to, all the educational programming that we offer here at Museo for children, youth, and also adults.
Exactly. Like this special day here in Colorado has been for so many years one of the main days where most of the contributors will come on board and engage with the institutions that they like to support.
Yeah, we are very grateful for Colorado Gives Day, to be honest. So yeah, it's going to be on December 9th this year. So we encourage you to participate in this fundraising effort that, the state of Colorado is doing every year for nonprofits like Museo de las Américas. Well, Claudia, if you don't have anything else to add, would you like to share anything else with the audience about Colorado Gives Day or about, your journey here at Museo?
I will invite everyone to come and support Museo de las Américas on Colorado Gives Day, December 9th. It is a great opportunity for you to come and visit us and get to know what is happening here at Museo and join any programs that we offer.
Thank you so much for your time today, Claudia, for being here on the podcast for your first time, not the last one, but the first time. And Claudia mentioned you can donate today at coloradogives.org. Just look for Museo de las Américas. And thank you so much for your support. Gracias.
Thank you.
Next, we have the pleasure to talk today with Linda Hanna, textile artist and founder of the collection of Rosas y Revelaciones. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Linda, your background?
Okay. At this point, I am close to 80 years old. I have lived the last 28 years in Mexico. And in stages of my life that are important to me, one was having my own business as a textile artist, a weaver in California for nearly 15 years, where I designed wearable art. Another phase that was important was being an elementary teacher and, of course, being a parent. But in terms of how this collection has come together, the elements of being a weaver as well as being a teacher have played into this. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's fascinating, all the things that you've done. Just being a parent is already a lot. My next question was going to be exactly that. How was it that this exhibition came to be, that this collection came to be? I know you are the founder of this collection. So yeah, tell me a little bit how the idea came up.
Okay. I see it with three sort of strands that have come together. And I mentioned being a textile artist, a weaver, as well as a school teacher. The other one, the first one that was very, very important, was a trip that my family took to Mexico City in 1959. I was 13 at the time. They scheduled a visit to the Basilica, and I was in awe. I still do not have words that can fully explain the feeling and emotion I had when I saw so many people, faithful, coming on their knees, many times with bloody bandages, to the sanctuary of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So, but that experience was powerful, and it went into my body, and I'm not a bit surprised this many years later how it has resurfaced. And in the meantime, or along with this, my fascination with Mexico, the history of Mexico, just keeps growing. In the story of the Guadalupe, we know that Juan Diego, the humble Aztec Indian, was approached by the Virgin of Guadalupe, telling him he had to talk to the Archbishop and get a church built exactly on the hill of Tepeyac, where the former Aztec mother goddess had been worshipped by the Aztecs. Well, as that story progresses, and ultimately his last visit to the Archbishop is the miraculous one where indeed they're going to build a church. And it's because he opens his tilma, his cloak, and there's the image of the Guadalupe on it. And the roses fall out at the feet. So this image is on a garment. That was fascinating to me because I know there is the Shroud of Lourdes that has an image of Christ on the garment, but mostly these miraculous events happen with statues or paintings. Some other medium is involved. But this was a garment. Okay, when I moved into the area when I was a teacher, I had designed a unit for fourth graders. That would be about age 10. And it had to do with power clothing. It was taking the idea that you can wear something, it can give you extra success in whatever you need. I mean, we have Superman as a hero from somewhere.
You said power clothing, right? I'm like, did you say power clothing? Power clothing.
Power clothing.
Oh.
Right? And it would not necessarily be a whole outfit like that. It might have been a pair of socks. It might have been a hat. It might have been something else. And that feeds into jewelry, too, that you might wear on your neck for something that is going to give you that extra success that you need. So these ideas were coming together, and I had already been living in Mexico for 10 years. I was a tour guide to take people to visit the families that do folk arts, always mostly interested in those that are doing textile arts. So I cannot remember a particular moment, but somewhere along 2011, maybe, I thought, Oaxaca, where I lived, has the most diverse textile traditions of all the states in Mexico. And wouldn't it be kind of interesting to come up with an idea and see how they could create this idea? And I could have chosen something like, say, a hummingbird. I could have said, I'm wanting to see what you would do if you made your garment in a traditional way, but added an image of a hummingbird. But something in my mind was also working there saying the finest, highest kinds of art are always going to involve a spiritual component. They're going to reach. Now, I'm not going to say that a hummingbird might not be a spiritual item. It could be, and you could have that. But in Mexico, if you are looking for something that is really going to touch the heart, soul of the population, there isn't something bigger than Guadalupe. And so that just was what I needed to ask. And the response was tremendous from across the board. Mostly, of course, the people had never done this before. I'm not going to say that it had never been done. No, that's not true, because there are communities that have a tradition, and the Guadalupe is part of that. But for others, it had not been. What I found really amazing to me was in talking with so many of the artists who agreed to do it, they needed a time to think about it. That was when they were getting their ideas together on how they would do this, which I would have thought meant you took a pad of paper and you started sketching out ideas. But that wasn't what they did. They just sat or dreamed or at any rate thought about how their technique, how they have to make their yarns and their materials work in order to create the image of the Guadalupe.
More like a contemplated state, more than thinking.
Very much so. And some absolutely told me this. They're in this kind of, not a dream state, but a place where they're communicating and having this experience. But this was, that was a powerful example. But there's another example of a piece where the gentleman who made it had been diagnosed with a fatal illness. So he made this pledge to Guadalupe that if I make a piece with your image on it, will you help me get over this illness? And miraculously, it worked. And so then he was willing to part with the piece, and it's in this display as well.
That is fascinating stories. So, Linda, this exhibition, Rosas y Revelaciones, homage to the Virgin of Guadalupe, It's a little bit different to what we usually have here at Museo, especially in terms of materials. Could you share with our audience a little bit what kind of mediums they can find when they come here?
Okay, well, when I decided I was going to try to put together this collection, I wanted to focus on the fact, again, that the image had first appeared on a piece of clothing. Therefore, everything in the exhibit is going to be something that's worn on the body. That had to be my limit for this, because honestly, we can find an image of Guadalupe on everything in Mexico. So if you just said, well, textiles, it could involve cushions, it could involve placemats, table,
Everything. Anything you can find
and
anywhere.
I couldn't do that because it would just be overwhelming, right? So these are items that are worn on the body. If you were asking for the material that probably is most commonly used, I would say cotton, because that is what is still found in many of the communities that are doing traditional work, okay? Now, we can say there's polyester, there's some synthetic threads used, there is wool, and there is silk. On occasion, there is a beautiful piece that is completely hand-spun, hand-dyed, natural-dyed silk. So that sort of is the range of what you're seeing in materials. And then there are a number of pieces that have been beaded. So that is on top of the groundwork, which would have been cotton or silk in one case.
What about palm leaf?
Okay.
Because that was
not palm
unusual.
leaf, but there is a piece of, well, it is palm.
I thought it was palm.
I was thinking leaf. No, it's not. You're right. So we do have, and this Monica Diaz, and she will be coming to do a workshop here at the museum in January.
So exciting. Yeah.
And that is what she does, is weaves with palm. And so that piece that she made, and when you might stand in front of it, you might think it was stenciled, the image of the Guadalupe stenciled on the back of this palm woven piece. But in fact, no, she had dyed the palm with cochinilla, giving it the red color, and wove that so that it has that design into it. It's an extraordinary piece. And once again, she had never, ever done that before, but she was also one of the artists, and there's probably a handful, maybe 4 or 5, that came to me instead of me going to them and said, I want to make something for this exhibit. They felt moved. They wanted to be included in being able to express themselves with this image. And I thought that was lovely, really.
Yes, it is. So, Linda, in this exhibition, in this show, we can see the richness of Mexican traditions, right? Also, indigenous vision of Virgin of Guadalupe, also, the different techniques, right? Could you tell us roughly how many indigenous groups are represented in this exhibition? How many regions in Mexico? I'm just very interested in that because I can see the diversity. You can see it in
Yes, you can. And again, I apologize because I don't have the exact number.
Roughly,
I can tell you that we have 16 states represented in that. And the majority of the pieces are coming from Oaxaca because I lived there and because it was easiest for me to actually go and meet the people and talk to the people. Within Oaxaca, they will say there's 16 languages. Because we have at least, within that, they're going to divide the Zapotec group into 3 dialects. So that's part of it. I would say without hesitation, the largest indigenous group represented is Zapotec here. But again, they have different types of work. So we're not having, many examples of the same kind of work. But I would say if you were looking for an indigenous group that is speaking its own indigenous language within its group, with its own family, there are probably 16 to 18 different indigenous groups. And at one point, in my mind as I was developing this, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to try to have at least one piece from each state in Mexico? Because there are 32, 31 with then using Mexico City as a... But in fact, there are numbers of states that don't have a culture or a tradition of folk art. It's not to say that the women, when they're not doing what other many tasks they have to do, wouldn't be sitting with an embroidery hoop working on it. But I didn't want to oversaturate the collection with the same technique. And in fact, that's what you would find. I think if you went around and counted the examples, you would find a lot of examples of cross-stitch.
And you can definitely tell, I think, that diversity in materials, in techniques, in just colors, everything, I think it's very stunning. Linda, is there something that you would like visitors to take away from this exhibition when they come here at Museo?
I would like them, to me, these people are the living treasures of Mexico. There was once a program I saw about living treasures of Japan, where Japan had designated this title to actual people who were doing a tradition that they admired in Japan, and they gave them a status, and then they were paid by the government to... Anyway, it was something that was beautiful. And I remember thinking at that time, because that was before I was completely involved in Mexico, why don't we have something like that for Indians in the United States who have reached a certain top level of skill? But in Mexico, these people who do this, and fortunately people will ask, are their children learning? Is this a dying art, or is it being sustained by the next generation? Unfortunately, I think it is. But, I still feel what these people are doing. And if you even saw in the setting that they're doing it in, I mean, in some cases, literally sitting on the ground in the dirt, doing, this beauty, you would just... You, the public, the visitors would be in awe. And I want maybe visitors to come and think, I want to go to Oaxaca. I want to see and meet some of these people. And that would be thrilling.
That would be. And, Linda, something that I really like about this work that you've done of, collecting all of these pieces is that if I understood correctly, you basically built a relationship with most of, these artists. And I think, that is very special, right? That makes this exhibition be, I don't know, it has another layer, right? Of like, it's personal, it's special, it's something that is intimate, right?
It is very intimate. And I mean, as Maruca, the director who curated the show and put it up, I mean, that was a comment that she made several times, the intimacy of clothing. Anyhow, I mean, it's worn on your body. It's something very, very close to you. So there is this intimacy. But I do feel, and I feel very fortunate to have met these people and now developed this relationship with them. It is, well, as I said in the beginning, I am approaching 80. I am at that point where I'm kind of looking back over different periods of my life and what was the beauty and what could have been better and all that sort of thing. And I am just looking at this particular phase with such pleasure and satisfaction to know that I, in my connection, have also expanded their world. Because I think when you offer an artist a challenge to do something, that when they have, their perimeters have been defined and they're doing something in a certain way, now you're asking them to go out. If they do it and they're successful and they're pleased with that, they've had a new door opened. And that's a gift. And I was happy to be part of that.
A new journey.
A new journey. You're right.
Linda, something that I think is very interesting about this exhibition is that you don't have to be a religious person to appreciate all these pieces, right? I feel like they speak for themselves. Anyone can contemplate and appreciate and basically soak in all this beauty, right?
Well, I think so too. I mean, it's not to say that we don't and many associate the image of the Guadalupe with the Catholic Church. But her story goes back before that. There is at least one piece that is very much the image of Tonantzin before she was transformed into Guadalupe. But again, back to the idea that when you have a spiritual connection, however it be, to something, you're trying for a higher level of execution in what you make. And I think that comes through in these pieces, what they were trying to do. And when I look around and I go, well, I wonder what this would look like if every piece had a hummingbird on it. And I'm sure it would be beautiful. I just don't think it would speak quite the same message to me.
Maybe it wouldn't be as profound,
I don't
right?
think so.
Yeah, because there's that devotion piece component.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything else that you would like to share with the audience? I know something interesting too about this exhibition is that this is not the first time that these pieces have been in a museum, right?
No, that is true. This is actually the 6th location for the exhibit. It had 4 locations in Mexico, starting with the State Museum of Folk Art in Oaxaca. Then it went up to Mexico City, and then it went to Cuernavaca, and then up to Tlaquepaque. And earlier this year, 5 months, it was on display at the Mingue International Museum in San Diego. After Denver, it will go to the Mexican Art Museum in Austin, Texas. And then it's going to Spokane, Washington, to the Junt Art Museum. And then I've had inquiries from Albuquerque Art Museum, and in Los Angeles, there's the Plaza de Artes y Culturas. And so I think it's going to be visible somewhere in the United States, certainly now through 2027. But I'm looking still for a few more venues before it ultimately comes back to Mexico and is going to be part of the permanent collection of the Museum of Popular Art in Mexico City in time for her 500th anniversary in 2031.
I feel very privileged now that we can see this collection here in Museo, at Museo de las Américas in Denver, because it truly is, fascinating exhibition. So thank you so much, Linda, for your work, for your time today. Anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I just encourage them all to come and see it in person, please. And I thank you for letting the show be here. And I just feel like I know I put it together, but I feel like I should be either kind of in the background. The pieces are out in front. And that's what I would love people to come and see for themselves. Okay.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you. As Linda said, please come to Museo de las Américas. Come see this amazing exhibition curated by Maruca Salazar, collected by Linda Hanna. It's going to be on view until January 11th, 2026. So, os esperamos. Thank you so much for listening to the Museo podcast on air. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share it with your networks so you can support this project. And also, if you subscribe, you get notified when we get a new episode. So it's a win-win. And you can also find us on social media at Museo Denver. Hasta pronto.